So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for allowing me to practice my English on you. My Norwegian is slightly rusty. Many thanks to Robert and the folks at Enlogic for inviting us over. I represent Accedian Networks, and we're here to actually complete a picture that has already been presented by our colleagues at Juniper and the folks at Transmode, now Infinera, who are, in one way or another, we're partnered on accounts, working together, and in the case of Infinera, we're actually embedded as part of their solution in their product portfolio, so we work very closely with them. So we've talked and we've heard about the MAF, the Carrier Ethernet initiatives. I briefly think I heard something about the things going beyond MAF, Carrier Ethernet 2.0 into the third way, the third network, lifecycle orchestration, and so on. To complete the picture, we're going to discuss very briefly between now and lunch, and I'm very conscious that I'm keeping you from your lunch. We are going to discuss virtual CPE. But first, I have to do the obligatory introduction of Accedian Networks, because perhaps not all of you are familiar with us. So do bear with me while we go through Accedian. So Accedian is 10 years old this year. We have a global presence. We have over 350 customers and climbing. We have 18 out of the top 20 mobile service providers are our customers. We have a heritage born out of Carrier Ethernet, so we've grown up with the Carrier Ethernet market. And we service upwards and beyond of 350,000 endpoints globally. And as I've mentioned already, we are partnered with many folks, many other companies, some of which are represented today. Accedian's developing focus is on what we call performance assurance. So this is the focus in the network in terms of service activation testing to reduce truck roll, in terms of assuring the performance and providing those granular metrics which increasingly the market is demanding. We are seeing in some key markets where service provider revenues are maximized in terms of financial markets, in terms of mobile backhaul, in terms of local government projects increasingly, data center connection of large enterprises. We're seeing increased focus on the granularity of performance metrics. So in our financial circuits, in our financial customers, we have products that are optimized to deliver a granularity of 10 milliseconds. So every 10 milliseconds we are reporting utilization on a number of classes of service and aggregated up to at least 1 second level of reporting. So the demand for metrics and the delivery, the real-time delivery of those metrics is a key concern that we're addressing with our customers and with our latest releases of products. And then moving on into the third network, as the MAF describe it, or where we talk a more dynamic network, the ability to observe those metrics in real time facilitates the kind of dynamic on-demand bandwidth services that we're all discussing amongst ourselves, with the vendor community, and most importantly with the customers. So we are seeing a greater demand for those metrics that we can produce as part of our service creation piece to facilitate this move towards more dynamic services. So in terms of the details of this, we are innovating in areas such as the real-time, the precision of our software and our hardware endpoint monitoring. So the measurements and the accuracy of these metrics. The ability to timestamp beyond commercial silicon applications in terms of layer 3 timestamping, the accuracy of that timestamping. The move towards Y1564, for instance, in service activation testing. So multiple flows, concurrently tested, traffic policing tested, and service, what we call birth certificates, delivered to the customer at the point of the service delivery. So moving on to the products themselves. Increasingly, we live in a more virtualized world, and we're more and more demand for virtualized systems where things like multi-vendor environments are supported, standards-based interaction between vendors to deliver solutions. So the Skylight performance assurance platform that we lead with as our flagship new product is increasingly about exposing the qualities of our customers' networks in turn to their customers. So if you're differentiating yourself and competing on the quality of the network that you deliver, then we are a prime mover in the ability for you as an operator to demonstrate that capability to your customer. In terms of the product set itself, rather than kill us all with more pictures of products, generally speaking, we are well known for our NID product. So our traditional Carrier Ethernet 2.0 NID product is well established in the marketplace and well known across many customers, including COLT, that we will go on to discuss in terms of virtual CPE. But we are moving to virtualize the NID functionality, the demarcation functionality, into a series of lower cost endpoints. And this is about reacting to our customer base, developing services with them. This is about reducing cost in a key area in the access network and in the CPE environment. This is about innovating to increase our customers' competitiveness, and it's about reducing our customers' cost. And finally, and not least, as we move towards some providers looking at a COTS solution for CPE, looking at developing an x86 kind of strategy, and we look at one of our key markets, which is LTE and LTE Advanced, then in that environment, even the smallest of form factors, even our SFP, would be considered to be too intrusive, and we are there ready with a deployed software agent that can perform a virtual machine CPE functionality that we'll go on to discuss. And again, the hallmark of this solution is its accuracy, so better than 50 microseconds accuracy without any network synchronization, which is one of the pieces of intellectual property that we've developed and that we own. So synchronization, timestamping, and accuracy of metrics are critical to our customer solutions. In terms of talking about and now to discuss virtual CPE, what does virtual CPE actually mean? Well, virtual CPE is widely interpreted and often differently interpreted depending on the vested interest of the speaker. In our case, we take a very pragmatic approach, and that virtual CPE we recognize it as a sea change, and we aim and we endeavor and we do deliver a solution which actually fits every operator's strategy that we've come across to date. So we're talking about the virtualization of as much functionality as possible from layers 3 to 7 off the CPE itself. So in terms of the presentation that preceded me, we are the first pragmatic way of delivering cost saving in a way that we can all live with as operators and as owners and users of a network. The obvious place to start is in the layer 3 functionality. So we've seen that this case study represents the COLT experience. And we've seen that with COLT, and we've seen that with many other vendors, that when they talk about virtual network functionality, when they talk about virtualizing the CPE, the very first place they start, the easiest place to get their head around it, is with the layer 3 routing functionality. It's the easiest thing to offload from the CPE, and it threatens and indeed delivers an immediate cost saving. There is one less CPE, there is a less complicated install from the word go. So the question becomes, how and when do you take the functionality away from the CPE and into the core, either into a, as we've already seen this morning, a capable and x86 provisioned edge device, or indeed into the data center where CPU functionality is obviously is vastly expandable on demand. So we are focused and we are firm believers, and this presentation aims to convince you that no matter how much we want to move away from a CPE, and no matter how much our customers demand wires-only services, as we see increasingly across Europe, we still need that OAM, that service demarcation. We still need what we would have known in the start of our careers as we still need that NTU, we still need that demarcation point. So Accedian provides the range of products and the range of software solutions to back them up to deal with all of the use cases we believe that the market is working towards. So for us, it's about hardware precision of time stamping of traffic for SLA measurement, or for traffic capture in advanced applications, which we'll discuss as one of our newer functionalities we're delivering to the marketplace. We're talking about wire speed RFC 2544, Y1564 service activation testing, either generated from a virtual endpoint or as a loopback instance, if a centralized solution is preferred. And critically, we're talking about accommodating some of the challenges that you'll face when you move your layer 3 demarcation point from the customer prem and you start looking at it in your own edge or your aggregation POP. So how do we deal with the fact that this POP is now exposed to the customer LAN, the customer broadcast? What do we need to do? What minimal functionality do we need at the customer edge in a layer 2 plus CPE demarcation point? What do we need to do at that point to accommodate the move of the layer 3 demarcation point? So we have obviously an early adopter case in the terms of our customer, one of our customers, COLT, and this presentation is kind of derived from that customer experience. So we have the use case, we have the years of development with that customer, and we have the cost savings that they report to back up the case for a virtualized CPE approach. Please.
Can you also split? You have multiple operators in towards the CPE. So you were talking about COLT. What about COLT? Some other service provider? Can multiple of those into that box?
So, and that's an interesting question, because we see those discussions more and more.
I'll have one of those boxes if you can do it.
So the MAF Standards has been very eloquently described in the previous presentations. The MAF OEM framework allows for separate domains for OEM purposes. So the standards that we all operate to now, by and large, the Metro Ethernet Forum standards are largely adopted.
But it's also in production, or are we?
So now we have it's a pragmatic approach. This whole thing, this whole virtualized space, is a pragmatic approach. So although we have no official agreement with Juniper, for instance, we are partnered with them and work very effectively with them in key accounts where we deliver our part of the solution they deliver. So in terms of vendors, virtualization, if you think about the operational support aspects, it's all very well for senior architects and long-served industry professionals to come up with a new paradigm for building a network. How do our operational teams get their head around who do they phone when a virtual instance in a data center stops firewalling the way it's supposed to firewall for a customer whose hardware is X? And this is why moving the layer 3 at a first instance is a kind of way of training us all on how to deal with the realities of that operational instance. Going beyond that, and to your point, I am seeing personally where the cost in the network is being driven, operators are beginning to think of the unmentionable. They're beginning to think of co-owning or building commercial agreements where they use the MAF standards and the capabilities within that standard, and they build commercial agreements, or they look to build commercial agreements. So we're seeing a move to that. The equipment is ready. The standards bodies are ready. I think across the vendor community here, we would back that up. It's about operator to operator negotiation.
I've seen them in large boxes from Panera, but not on the edge.
It's about coordination. I mean, there is no reason why a NID, one of our more traditional products, which is doing some quite advanced traffic classification, HQAS, etc., service creation, why that couldn't host a NanoNID SFP, which is in turn deployed by an operator on behalf of their client operator customer. And that acts as their endpoint for OEM purposes. Absolutely. Yeah. It comes down to operator, the commercial arrangements, but the physical equipment is there to provide for it. In terms of a kind of an actual case study, this is information reported by COLT COLT themselves, a customer of ours for many years, a customer of Juniper's, etc. They report these figures of immediately 30% savings in terms of deploying virtual routing functionality. So getting rid of the CPE router, moving that onto the Juniper box and other boxes that in their vendor community that they deployed. At the same time, they need a layer 2 plus demarcation device, which when they partnered with us, we developed things like layer 3 advanced layer 3 classification on the CPE, traffic policing, best in class, queuing, etc. So those feature sets complement the move of the layer 3 features into the core. And of course, there is a trade-off, and we know that produces perhaps a couple more steps in terms of the provisioning process. So as part of this kind of brave new dawn of this new networking paradigm where vendors are increasingly virtualized and they all work together on behalf of their operator customers to deliver these new solutions, the orchestration piece, the management piece, needs to realize those operational CapEx savings. And there is no doubt that underpinned the COLT success story. They invested in those management solutions, and they created that vendor community to work together, and they drove that as a process. And I would put that back to you folks in your operations, that is a key learning curve. And Enlogic, of course, and folks like them around Europe and the world stand ready to sort of help with that process, the systems integrator approach. So that was a key, from my view, looking into that account as they developed this solution. That was a key early success, a key early critical decision that they made, that they would glue it around an OSS solution that fitted their needs, and they would persuade their vendor community to take part in that process. Things are already really discussed, so I'll whip through this in the interest of lunch. When you start moving your broadcast domain, your layer 3 demarcation point further into your network, then you have more and more exposure. So it's important to have a partnership with your CPE vendor to help mitigate any concerns, any issues that you particularly might have in that space. And it's a key part of our process and our learning curve and our development with our customers to build those functionalities and those features. Again, this is all about Accedian partnering with its customers to improve their profitability and to improve their competitiveness in the marketplace. Yeah? We can see that in terms of the demarcation point, we're now beginning to think of a demarcation point quite readily as an SFP, a smart SFP, maybe a small form factor box that does even part of a layer 2 carrier Ethernet 2.0 function. And maybe we now begin to think of some of the MEF carrier Ethernet 2.0 specification actually being carried out on the aggregation port. Again, we're driving down the cost of ownership, the cost of deployment, and we're increasing the flexibility of the network by virtualizing more and more of this space. Here's our good friend Bart Janssens from COLT with a fairly nice validation of our work with those folks. And the key thing here is the teamwork. I think this in the virtualization space, as you move towards this new way of operating your network, it's partnering with your vendors, right? It's discussing it, it's building that relationship, it's understanding what they can deliver and what they will deliver for you. We are aware and we're cognizant and we're prepared, and we have the equipment family, the solution family, to work with a wide range of opinions on how you build your network function, your virtualization, your infrastructure. Where are you going to virtualize? Are you going to deliver some functionality on an x86 COTS platform? Are you going to go as light as possible for a particular customer class and have the smallest possible demarcation point? These conversations are conversations we're ready to have. We're having all of the varieties of those conversations right now. We have upwards of 60 plus virtual CPE customers, countries deployed at the moment. So these conversations are our kind of daily. This is our raison d'etre, if you like. In terms of where the product family go, we have two strong parts, clearly defined parts to the functionality. One is creating a network, creating the service that you sell. Okay, so that is filtering, mapping, all those kind of layer 2 to layer 3 functionalities. And we try not to talk too much about it because every vendor will talk about it, but we have and we would be delighted to discuss our advanced traffic policing capability, micro-shaping, our use of different queuing algorithms, etc., etc. I've been told to hurry up, so I'm going to. Sorry, guys and girls. So in terms of the evolution of CPE, we're talking about virtualized CPE, physical to virtual. We see increasingly that we go through a hardware component that we have today, where the CPE and the CPU and FPGA are on box. Everything is on box. To a virtualized instance where we have a very small form factor device on the CPE, and we use NFV techniques to maximize the functionality of that endpoint. So this month we're releasing our packet broker functionality. So this will allow initially service providers and financial operators to meet their obligations in terms of financial trading regulation to capture very accurately and time-stamped very accurately their trading information. In the long run, the possibilities of a virtualized infrastructure allows that packet capture functionality to do things like distributed DPI and other such things. So in this instance, with a local NFV running a DPI instance on one location, we can remotely, in a distributed fashion, use that DPI instance for other sites which don't have a local NFVI infrastructure. So we can do distributed packet capture as an instance. Just to wrap up, I'm sorry, I don't often do this, so I do ramble on. You can tell me to be quiet. We're promoting the idea that no matter how much virtualization you have, there is always a requirement for an endpoint of some description, even a software endpoint in a totally virtualized environment. We are getting increasing demand for these increased metrics. SNMP is dying as a method of capturing these real-time performance metrics, and we're seeing that the advantages to our customers of real-time, continuous, highly granular SLA metrics, where you don't miss an occurrence, an event. If you're polling every 15 seconds, if you're gathering data every minute or every 5 minutes, you're just missing what the network's trying to tell you. Thank you very much for your patience and your attention.